What makes a good commercial film? A lot of directors get either the good or the commercial correct but don't nail both perfectly. One director who had a decent handle on both for most of the 80s and 90s was Mani Ratnam. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a good commercial film that he made, Agni Natchatram. Agni Natchatram is a very unconventional and frankly interesting title. It's a play on the abundant heat that's on display in this film. Heat, which is a metaphor for the flaring tempers of the two leading men who resent the actions of their father. The sun is a constant backdrop of the many interactions and confrontations between the two leading men. So much so that when they actually come together at the end, their clenched fists hide the sun in the closing frame. Agni Natchatram, which released on 14th of April 1988, was originally supposed to be the follow-up to Maunaragam. However, Mukta Srinivasan approached Mani Ratnam with the dates of Kamal Haasan, and what followed was that Nayagan was made and released before Agni Natchatram. Agni Natchatram was Mani Ratnam's attempt with his team Ilayaraja and P.C. Sriram to reach out to a broader mass audience. It also was their attempt to push the envelope in terms of what was possible in commercial mainstream films. Agni Natchatram is not a perfect film. It had its fair share of compromises, but it did lay out the gold standard in the usage of music as well as its technical wizardry. Agni Natchatram is about a principled IAS officer played by Vijay Kumar. He is a doting father, a dutiful son, and a loving husband. However, he has two wives. Of course, he is very upfront about it and he tries to do full justice to his two families. However, his actions have long-term impact on the two sons and also the rest of the family members. How the two families have a deep-rooted resentment for each other, but they come together when a personal tragedy strikes them forms the rest of the plot. Sumitra plays the role of the officer's wife who lives in an upper-class neighborhood of Adayar with her mother-in-law and son in a sprawling house, whereas Jayachitra is playing the role of the second wife who lives in a much more middle-class Westmambalam with her son and daughter. Agni Natchatram is a masala film, but it is rooted on a very genuine and serious premise. This film is also known for the very sensitive handling of the relationships between the family members of the two families of Vijay Kumar. Let's start with Vijay Kumar. His relationship with Sumitra seems to be that of an intellectual companion, whereas his relationship with Jayachitra is one of a soulmate. Also, when Vijay Kumar is having dinner in his home in Adayar, he is sitting in a dining table and having food on crockery sets, whereas when he goes to Westmambalam, he is not only sitting on the floor and having his food, but he is also serving food for his family. What a contrast. Let's talk about the relationship between the two wives played by Sumitra and Jayachitra. Let's take an example of the scene where Jayachitra goes to plead to Sumitra to bail out her son Karthik. Just watch this scene for how sensitively Mani Ratnam has handled the emotions of the two characters without compromising on the dignity of either. Let's talk about the relationship between the daughter of Jayachitra and the members of the other family. Usually, the sister character is very generically constructed and not paid much attention to. However, in this movie, this has been done so sensitively. Just watch the scene where Prabhu, Amala, and Tara travel in a train. You'll see this complex relationship between the brother and the half sister being explored so beautifully by Mani Ratnam. Let's talk about the chemistry between the two leading men. Their animosity has not been established by Mani Ratnam by way of powerful action sequences. Rather, he uses music when they meet, the visuals with the sun as a backdrop, as well as powerful dialogue to build up the animosity. Mani Ratnam has mentioned that the anticipation in the audience of an impending bad event that's going to happen creates far more impact than powerful action sequences. This is a trend that is followed all the way till his most recent film, Chekkachivandavanam. Finally, let's talk about the romance between the two leading pairs. Even these are established as fulfilling a void that the two men experience in their lives. Prabhu craves for and is attracted by the free spirit and innocence that Amala brings, whereas Karthik and Nirosha, despite their flashy and charming exteriors, are actually attracted to each other due to their shared pain. Ultimately, no discussion about Agni Nakshatram is complete without talking about the stupendous work of P.C. Sriram. We would like to take you through some examples of his absolute mastery that he displayed in this film. Let's talk about the usage of brass vessels to reflect light onto the faces of the protagonists in the Thoongada Vizhigal Rendu song. The use of stroboscopic lighting in the film is extremely interesting. P.C. Sriram has used this lighting in two very different scenarios. In Ninnu Kori Varanam song, he's used that to create a romantic mood. In the climax, he's used the same kind of lighting to create a very different set of feelings. The usage of diffusion filters is also very interestingly done in this film. Typically, it's only used for romantic sequences, whereas in this film, he's used it for a whole array of sequences, including that meeting between Sumitra and Jayachitra. Quite curious, but quite effective. PC's creativity in this movie thus is absolutely boundless, and this film serves as the reference material to a whole new generation of cinematographers who followed ever since. Raja sir is at his best and he is one of the kings of this film. Perhaps no wonder he says to the audience, Raja, Raja di Rajanindar Raja. Each of the romantic tracks of this film, be it the Amritavarshini masterclass Thoongada Vizhigal Rendu, or the soulful Sivaranjini based Vava Anbe, or the edgy Mohanam based Ninnu Kori Varanam, are very much fresh in the minds of Raja sir fans. However, the hidden gem that we would like to call out for you is Oru Pungavanam. The maturity in orchestration, Janaki Amma singing, and brilliant lyrics make for a very memorable number. Overall, it's a complete blockbuster album, both commercial and classy, definitely one for the ages. It pains us to see that Mani Ratnam had to insert a very low on taste and totally out of place comedy track featuring V.K. Ramaswamy and Janakaraj. Almost tragic to note that even Mani Ratnam was not spared from the commercial demands of his times. The Prabhu Amala track is pitched a little too shrill and seems to lack depth. Amala's motivations and psyche, especially, are not explored enough. For the unique premise and excellent performances, we are actually left wanting for more screen time for the Karthik and Nirosha segment. Mani Ratnam's Agni Nakshatram is absolutely worth your 2 hours of time for its sensational music and cinematography and its masterful exploration of relationships. You can watch this movie on YouTube and please do let us know what you think in the comment section. We look forward to see you with another special film in the next episode of Retro Ticket.